This is not a story about Kyle and Mrs. Knight. This is a story about how we read our students. This is also a story about how our students read themselves as readers and writers. But most importantly, this is a story about how we can help our students turn around their identities as unsuccessful readers by first turning around the way we help these students in our classrooms. Meet Kyle. Every day during writing workshop, Kyle sat and doodled in his writing workshop journal. Mrs. Knight put up prompts to help students with ideas, but no luck. Mrs. Knight asked Kyle to respond to the prompts, but no luck. Kyle would sit and either doodle or daydream, but he never wrote. This was true of Kyle during reading. He was resistant, disinterested, withdrawn, and sometimes even hostile towards Mrs. Knight and the other students when asked to engage in reading. Kyle was a struggling student. All Kyle wanted to do was doodle in his notebook. Mrs. Knight was a frustrated teacher. She didn't know how to help Kyle. She tried small groups. She tried to get him on the computer for a computerized reading program. She tried to sit with him as he read from his Basil reader, but nothing worked. And to make matters worse, when Mrs. Knight leaned over Kyle's shoulder, she noticed he was drawing very vivid and very violent pictures of swords and blood and battles. Mrs. Knight saw red flags everywhere with Kyle. He was withdrawn, disinterested, and potentially even violent. Then Mrs. Knight tried something. One day Mrs. Knight pulled over her chair next to Kyle and watched him draw. "Can you tell me what you're drawing?" Kyle shrugged and didn't respond. "These are very intricate drawings, and I've noticed that you've been working on these all through school. They must be very important to you. Can you tell me about them? I really would like to know." Kyle shrugged and quietly responded, "I'm drawing anime." Mrs. Knight had heard a little about anime. "Isn't anime from Japan?" "Yeah, but most people don't know much about anime," Kyle responded. Mrs. Knight knew that she just found her in to help Kyle. She asked him if he would teach the class about anime. Over the next few weeks, Mrs. Knight let Kyle work on the computer researching anime during reading time. She let him continue to draw and write during writing time. She taught him how to create his own digital story using his drawings and what he learned about anime to share with the class. When the 2 weeks were up, Kyle beamed with pride as he shared with the class his research about anime. The students buzzed with excitement and asked him lots of questions. They asked Kyle if he could draw anime for them. Kyle had written a 14-page essay about anime and a short story about his characters, the most he had ever written in his life. He became more interested in school and began to see himself as a reader and writer of anime. Over the next few months, Mrs. Knight was able to convince Kyle to engage in some different types of reading and writing other than anime, although she would frequently have to remind Kyle of those connections. Mrs. Knight turned things around for Kyle. Kyle began to read himself as a reader and writer. This is the story about what it means to reach all of our students where they are and help them develop their identities as readers and writers. This is a story for all teachers.